Welcome, everyone. We're going to get just started in a minute. We're just letting everybody come through the virtual door.
You could go ahead and start, Deanie. It's slowed down.
All right, wonderful. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for taking your lunch hour and joining us today. And for all of you that celebrate, a very happy Diwali. So a year ago, New Jersey passed the strongest legislation in the nation to reduce single-use plastic. And today, this historic legislation is enacted with making plastic straws available upon request. So it's truly a joyous occasion, especially for all of us who have advocated tirelessly for so long. I should tell you my name. My name is Nandini Checco, and my nickname is Deanie, and I'm a project director here at ANJAC. So for today's agenda, we're going to have Sarah Kohler come and talk about straws and Ocean Conservancy. And then we're going to do a deep dive into New Jersey's law and get some FAQs answered. We're very fortunate to have Joanna Jemeden, with the Executive Director for New Jersey Clean Communities, online with us to help with Q&A. And for you folks who are looking for Clean Communities credit, please post your name and email in the chat box, and we'll get that over to Carol Broccoli at Rutgers through Joanna. And if you have any questions, feel free to post those directly into the Q&A box. Oh, and let me get started. So Sarah's going to go first, and let me just give you a bio about her. Okay. So Sarah Kohler serves as the outreach manager for the International Coastal Cleanup under Ocean Conservancy's Trash-Free Seas program. She enjoys working with a fantastic network of beach and waterway cleanup organizers worldwide, along with passionate educators and individuals who take action on the issue in their own communities. She manages the creation and distribution of education and outreach materials for action-based solutions and maintains Ocean Conservancy's data collection tools, including the CleanSwell app and online ocean trash database. She holds a bachelor's degree in biology and environmental studies from Eckerd College and has been with Ocean Conservancy for 8 years. She's had the pleasure of representing the Trash-Free Seas program at a number of local, state, and national marine debris meetings and conferences. So welcome, Sarah. I'm going to let you take it from here.
Wonderful. Thank you, Deanie, and all of the organizers. I just want to make sure that you can hear me okay before I get started with volume, and then that you can see my title slide.
Yes, we can.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you and congratulations on not only the passage of the law, but implementation starting today. I'm excited to be here and speak with you briefly about Ocean Conservancy's Skip the Straw campaign, which really was born in kind of an interesting way and has kind of spread nationally. We're one of a number of environmental NGOs and marine conservation NGOs that have really worked with straws specifically. And there's some really interesting reasoning behind that. But I just want to kind of share some of the lessons that we've learned, what we've heard from working with different restaurants, hotels, similar establishments, in making that transition away from the single-use plastic disposables. See here, but first, a little bit about us. If you're unfamiliar with Ocean Conservancy, we are based in Washington, D.C. That's normally where I am. I'm joining you today in South Carolina. But some of the work that we focus on, this is just a smattering of our program work. We really do try to focus on the major threats facing our ocean today. Ocean plastics has been one of those pillars of our work for our 45-year history. And really the international coastal cleanup that I work on, I'm the outreach manager for the ICC, is really the backbone of our work and has inspired all of the science that we've supported, the research and the education and outreach work as well. And that's kind of where Skip the Straw stemmed from for us. I won't talk about this too much because we're all very involved in this field and we know how ubiquitous plastic pollution is nowadays. I will just say that our program has had the benefit of growing exponentially through all of the increased funding and attention to research in the field, in the space, and the media attention that it seems like every day we can find, every day we are finding new media hits and articles, and we're learning more about the issue. We learn more from cleanups. I think we're at this really interesting point where we're at a tipping point of we've done cleanups for many of years, many of us have. Now what can we do with leveraging that information and actually tackling these upstream sources? So straws have been a really interesting, I think, low-hanging fruit for many of us to kind of get into the foodware and beverage space. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but it's everywhere. It's traveling. I only mentioned this slide because I know we all know this, but some of the restaurants that we've talked to have said that some of the kind of graphics like the one that you see here have been really helpful for them to just get this idea across to patrons, to the average, maybe even an average cleanup volunteer. They might not know the various ways that trash can travel. And it's been fun for us to talk to, say, like a barbecue joint in Kansas City. And they're like, our patrons might not care so much about sea turtles. It's not really like it's in their backyard, but it is an interesting concept for them to understand how their straw might, even in an urban area, make its way to a waterway. So we've got all sorts of resources like this that we're always happy to share and even customize with community leaders and restaurants and similar establishments. So for us, it really all starts with the ICC. We just celebrated our 36th year. I have in my notes, over the 36 years, volunteers around the world have removed 14.1 million plastic straws and plastic drink stirrers from the environment. So just an amazing global movement. We're honored to kind of be that information hub and to help manage all of the resources for that and to house the data that come in that volunteers collect, since those are just so vitally important for the rest of our work. In New Jersey, New Jersey Clean Communities has been a partner for many years. And then we also work closely with Clean Ocean Action on the coast, have been two big key leaders. And I'm sure many of you have led or participated in the ICC at one point or other. So thank you so much for everything that you do in that event and year-round cleanup work. We always tell volunteers their data are used, and straws, our Skip the Straw campaign is like a very key example of a success in how their data have been used to implement policy change, help restaurants see that the importance of that transition, and then validate that policy change moving forward. So how do we get those data? Well, we've had paper data cards for years. I'm just going to put a quick plug for the CleanSwell app here. Straws, foodware, beverage items all have been tracked for all 36 years of the ICC, and we continue to do that on the CleanSwell app, which has been really key for us, especially during COVID, while we've all been dispersed. Folks, have been still wanting to go out and do cleanups, can go do one on their own and track their impact through the app. This is available in a number of different languages, and we're continually working to improve it and to make it as useful as possible for our partners. So those data that come in each year from the ICC help inform a report that we publish. And then some of the really key graphics, I put this one up here because that top 10 list is always really interesting. And we've talked to partners on the ground who have really liked that list when working with restaurants or working in their community to show them like, hey, look, like straws or food, plastic food containers, they're on the top 10. Like they're one of the top items found during this annual event. And really, this is just a snapshot, obviously a small snapshot of what's out there. And we can also we have an online database where we can pull a top 10 list for your community, right? Like we can really kind of localize it. Restaurants kind of like to share that as well when they're talking about how, straws were number 5 last year. Let's get them lower on the list. Like let's really help decrease this number in years to come. So the graphics have been really fun. And we also do some really fun social math as well, to kind of take an issue that is not so great and make it approachable for the average diner or patron. And if you're interested in learning more about the data or anything that I'm just mentioning here briefly, I can follow up with much more detail and even share those reports with you all. So the data, like I said, they implement policy or they help inspire policy change. I am curious, I'm assuming international coastal cleanup data have been used in this law and the plastic reduction law that has just passed for New Jersey or passed last year. And it's wild to kind of, it's hard even for us to keep track of how often the data are accessed. It is an online open database. So, you know, we're steering decision makers and researchers there on a daily basis. But like what you see here, just everything from localized like smoking bans on beaches all the way up to like international treaties such as MARPOL, that first one listed, have all utilized ICC data. Because the beauty of it is that we amass a large amount of data in a short amount of time. And those numbers, that numeric evidence has been really key for some of our local partners who maybe they have images of how impactful straws can be to the local environment, like having the numbers behind it and being able to track it and the metrics, they said have been really helpful for them to get some of these laws passed and to help validate that, you know, over the years after implementation, the numbers can go down. We see that like a marked decrease in that. So I'm excited to keep like my finger on the pulse in New Jersey and see how maybe plastic bags, polystyrene food takeout containers, and straws may be reduced. It may be reflected in coming year cleanup numbers. So Skip the Straw began in about 2014 for us. So we have been working with sea turtle conservation partners for a number of years. So all throughout the Southeast US, those folks that have the permits to go out, block off and guard the sea turtle nests during the summer months, we talked to a lot of them and they said, oh, we're picking up trash daily as well when we do our patrols. So we equipped them. They were kind of the first people to test out the CleanSwell app for us. And we were really saddened and dismayed to find that the numbers that they were finding on these vital sea turtle nesting beaches were actually showing even higher numbers, higher counts of plastic straws than even just the general cleanup. So we thought, let's try to do something about this and let's focus on straws specifically. So our online campaign was kind of born from that. We sent an email out to OC members and just made a simple pledge page. I mean, this was back, you know, before we even knew a lot about alternatives and whatnot, and just seeing if people would be interested in making that move and that small behavior change. And there was overwhelming response. Our members were really excited about this. And we even started hearing from restaurants then. So we thought, let's build this out a little bit more. Let's get some materials that are fun facing, like I talked about, kind of fun, public facing, patron facing. Let's build out a more permanent pledge page. That's what you see here on the center of the screen. And let's have these graphics and this messaging available so that restaurants and our sea turtle partners that were approaching these restaurants to make this change didn't have that onus put on them, right? Like we have a lot of that messaging, we have the data to back it, we have that information. So we're kind of a step removed from the on the ground work, but we can provide and customize resources to make it easier, hopefully, for implementation. So things like translations of resources, we do that all the time with our cleanup resources. So it was just an easy fit for us, that in a space that we thought we could help fill a little bit. So it started with just a very easy flyer. This is a 5x7 that we actually print. We would ship these out to anyone who wanted them. Nature centers, restaurants even like to put it in their community center or their community area, post it on their community board, and everyone in between. Anyone interested in kind of spreading this and maybe kind of getting a foothold in their community. So from there, we created a number of resources that we still have available. We started with a formal letter of kind of support for a lot of our partners that were approaching these restaurant owners and managers and explaining why they were asking them to skip the straw. Obviously, these are in a lot of locations where plastic straws were still, there's no law or policy in place. So it was a voluntary transition that they're asking these establishments to take. I will say that a lot of these groups had a leg up because they are coastal towns where, these sea turtle partners are seen as leaders in the community. People love their clean beaches. And so there was quite a bit of support from restaurants already, and they just needed the messaging to kind of get them there. So we worked to make, not only customizable logos, but kind of the stickers that you saw on that last slide. We have window decals that are similar to like a TripAdvisor or a Yelp sticker would go. We've worked with other NGO partners. You see on this top picture here, Surfrider Foundation. They're the sticker to the left of our window decal. They have a whole ocean-friendly restaurant campaign. So maybe many of you probably know about this, but Skip the Straw is just kind of one item on the list of how restaurants can come on board to get that, almost like a certification to be an ocean-friendly restaurant. And then we helped partners with, making sure they had any of the cleanup data that they might need, right? Anything to help them in their arsenal when approaching these restaurants and establishments. And then also we started to hear from plastic straw alternative manufacturers. So it kind of really started with paper straws. Then we started to hear from silicone straw manufacturers. And we've gotten a smattering of samples over the years. So we've then just immediately passed those on to local partners and groups who are just trying to figure out, now that we're going to switch or ditch plastic, what can we transition to realistically and feasibly. So we're doing a little bit of that, but more for us, we can help with the messaging and we can help with the customization. So for the restaurants, again, we have this toolkit. We will work with them one-on-one to do just about anything they need help with. So if it's a message and a menu, like you see there in the top left corner, top right corner is a restaurant manager that they had a little kind of bubble that they used. They didn't want to use our brand or anything, but just needed help with, messaging for the patron. To everything from tabletop tents in the bottom left corner to a coaster design that we printed some samples of and then just let restaurants run with the design and could customize, again, any of this. So it was kind of a pick your own suite of resources, if you will. And it's been helpful for them because the last thing that we wanted to do was put more onus on the employees, the servers, the people working at these establishments. And especially now during COVID, they have enough on their plate to deal with that we don't want to make them have to deal with explaining this over and over. So I'm having some of these really kind of bright colored visuals at the table or at the bar for patrons to kind of take a look and educate themselves on their own. And during downtime has been really helpful. We've heard from a lot of restaurants. So I think this is my last slide. Just some of the challenges and questions, and Deanie had prompted me with some of the questions that came in during registration of this event. Obviously, we did hear from a number of people with medical differences or issues, health issues that required them to use a straw to drink their beverage. Obviously, all of these laws that have been passed, there are those caveats in place, and establishments need to have a straw on hand for people who need them. And we absolutely understand that and support that, obviously. So there were some kind of growing pains in our campaign and needing to kind of make sure the wording was just right so that we're not excluding that portion of the community. That was the last thing that we wanted to do. So it sounds like restaurants are needing to have straws on hand. I'm not sure, it's different in different locations, whether or not it has to be a plastic disposable straw that's available upon request, or if it could be an alternative. We've talked to a number of restaurants about what has worked with alternatives. Paper or thicker cardboard seem to be the next go-to, I think, just from a price standpoint. But we've heard everything from what I have listed there, like noodle, silicone, even using stainless steel reusable straws. There was a partner of ours in Florida who had success with this in some of their cocktail drinks that really did need a straw. They were like, we just, increased the price by $1 and had these metal straws with our establishment name like engraved on them, and they became like a take home for patrons, similar to how bars do kind of the take home reusable plastic cup. So it's worked for some, it hasn't worked for others. And then I put a little note there about, so PLA is the kind of plastic polymer that is compostable, or it is technically it's only compostable in like an industrial compost facility. So I'm not up to speed on if those exist or what that looks like in the state of New Jersey, but that may also be a more economic option at this time for establishments. I will say from an ocean conservation perspective, we're not super huge fans, at least at Ocean Conservancy, of these compostable plastics, mainly because 9 times out of 10, they don't actually make it to the proper facility needed to compost them with the high heat and pressure. So we, and if they get into the waterway, they kind of act the same way as a plastic straw. So there's pros and cons to all of these, but really open to kind of keeping the conversation going, and hopefully I kind of helped answer any questions in that regard. And it's been a great event, or a great movement, and we just kind of keep it going. So if there's any interest in some of our Skip the Straw stuff, or getting connected to another partner like Surfrider, I'm happy to help make those connections. So thank you. I think that's all I've got.
No, that was great, Sarah. And we're in agreement with you at ANJAC as far as compostable plastics. It's still out there for us on how good that is. But no, that was really helpful. I think that folks will be reaching out to you and asking for some information on how to customize some of those products. Thanks. Let's see. Oh, okay. So there was a question. How can municipalities get access to these posters to give restaurants in our towns? And I think it's just reaching out to you, right, Sarah?
Absolutely, yes. And I'm thinking, Dean, you're going to PDF this slide. So if anyone missed any of the URLs, you can access a lot of the materials there. But yeah, we'll work one-on-one with you to get anything you need. Okay, great. Thanks. All right, I am going to share my screen and go back to our presentation and deep dive into what's happening here in Jersey. If I can find it. All right, here we are. Okay. So what I'm going to do is just go over the basics of the law as it stands today, and then we'll get into a little more detail and Q&A as we go along. So thank you for those folks who did email in questions prior to this, so that helped frame this conversation. So the basics: all single-use plastic carryout bags banned with some sanitary exceptions, and I'll get to that, as well as all polystyrene foam food service products and plastic straws, as you folks know, but the straws are just upon request. So if there is a grocery store above 2,500 square feet, paper carryout bags are also banned. So think of, including ShopRites, but also stores like Target or Walmart, because they sell a lot of groceries in those stores. And if you have a grocery store under 2,500 square feet, paper carryout bags are free. So plastic carryout bags are, just to confirm, they're also banned in restaurants, at food trucks, really anywhere and everywhere. Time frames, as you guys know, we're starting straws today. Bags will start on May 4th, 2022. And foam service foodware products, that starts also on May 4th. But there is a 2-year extension for long handle spoons, portion cup size 2 ounces or less, meat and fish trays, and prepackaged foods. All right, so local ordinances are in effect until each product type comes gets enacted. The definition for a reusable bag is that it's made of polypropylene fabric or non-woven fabric, nylon, cloth, or hemp. And the key here that it's washable and it has stitched handles, and be designed for multiple reuses.
For funding, New Jersey Clean Communities Program has funds of, they have the state set aside funds of $500,000 for the first 3 years to help with statewide educational effort and giveaway of reusable bags. And for municipalities, this came, you had a little extra in your Clean Communities funding, and the grant guidelines have been amended to allow those funds for Bag Up New Jersey education and outreach and bag giveaways. You can certainly use those funds as well as your recycling tonnage grant funding. All right, so what are the penalties? The first is just a warning, and then it gets pretty steep from there. It's $1,000 for second offense and $5,000 for third or subsequent offenses. 70% goes back to the state and 30% is remitted with the municipality. And enforcement, that is a question that many people have. How is this going to be handled? So enforcement will be taken care of really ideally by the municipality as municipalities currently enforce other laws. And if the municipality has any issues, then it bumps up to the county environmental health agency. And if that can't be handled, then it goes to the state. And that's what we're currently doing for enforcement. All right. So more FAQs. Do municipality and county properties have to comply? Yes, 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 yes. And there are, of course, small and medium-sized businesses that might be struggling with getting alternatives to their polystyrene foam products. And you can contact DEP, and they're the ones that will help determine exemptions. You can no longer, after May 4, 2022, buy foam products in stores in New Jersey. So like the foam cups or any clamshells, all of that is off the shelves. What about trying to get a list of vendors that provide alternatives? So the New Jersey Business Action Center does have a vendor clearinghouse, and right now it's just for reusable bags. They are working on a guidance document for foam alternatives. And right now I know that there are businesses that are working on inventory. So you can encourage folks to obviously buy alternatives. And as long as they're not foam, you want to check and make sure that you want to stay away from the plastics, right? The plastic clamshell containers. You would love to stay away from anything that has PFAs. So looking in the cardboard or in the molded fiber, or one of those alternatives would be best. But there's more coming from the Business Action Center on alternatives. All right, so what is allowed? So fortunately, these are allowed, you know, bags, produce bags for small items, laundry, dry cleaning, garment bags, newspaper bags, so your newspapers don't get wet. At the pharmacy, that is allowed, the small plastic bags at the pharmacy. So those are what's allowed. And feel free to drop questions into the Q&A as I keep going, and we'll try to get answers to those. Along with part of the law is that there is a Plastic Advisory Council. So members have yet to be nominated and into the council yet. So we're hoping that gets done pretty soon. So these folks will be responsible for checking on the law and making sure it gets implemented properly and making recommendations to strengthen the law. All right, so we're here today on the plastics. So any food service business owners, food service businesses may only provide plastic straws to customers upon request. They are required currently to keep an adequate supply of single-use plastic straws. So this question, this part of the law doesn't really make sense. I think there's a flaw here because there are towns who pass straw ordinances, and there are a lot of restaurants that are plastic straw free. And according to the way this law is written right now, they have to have a supply of single-use plastic straws, which honestly doesn't make a lot of sense. So Joanne Jeminem from New Jersey Clean Communities has been speaking with the DP. We are still going to be part of there's a rulemaking process happening currently, and we're encouraging them to remove the plastic part of this, because what we want are just, straws for folks who need them. And let's see what else. Packages of single-use plastic straws and prepackaged items are still eligible, like juice boxes. They can still be sold in stores. So if you have like a Wawa or a 7-Eleven, Dunkin' Donuts in your towns, they can no longer leave plastic straws on the counters. They have to the customers have to go to employees and request a straw from the employee. So even this is for drive-throughs, this is all throughout. So it's just straws upon request. Joanne, I don't know if you're online, if you want to jump in and say something about that.
I am here. I was actually answering the questions online.
Oh,
so
great.
I was deep into that dive. So what am I answering? I'm sorry.
Did you want to read one of the questions that was online as a reference to straws?
Sure. I read in the law that there appears to be an exemption for plastic bags for stores that do not sell cooked foods. For example, I have a seafood store in my town that sells fresh fish. Mm-hmm. Are they on the list of banned locations? Their store is about 1,000 square feet. Based on the size, nobody can use plastic bags unless there's a specific exemption. So my answer to them was to go to the DEP website. That is your best resource. That's something you should bookmark on your computer and send folks to that, which is the perfect segue into, I guess, this discussion. So.
Right. So let me see if I understand it. For the fish, yeah, they can wrap that. That's an exemption, right? That's my understanding. But the store itself can't use plastic bags, but they can wrap the fish.
I believe as well, it's an exemption, but I want to really emphasize that this is the main place for you to go when you have questions, because if it's not already addressed, you should send it to the DEP, because there's, very few questions are just for one person. And if you send it to the DEP, they will add it to their FAQ list, and which will be constantly growing over the next couple of years as we start to implement this law. So having it all housed by the DEP, I think that's the best place for folks to go to get an answer.
That sounds good. There was a question that came in from Georgia. As for straws, how is it handled for when somebody gets a smoothie or iced coffee that's traditionally come with a cup, top, and straw? What happens there? So for like a Slurpee, or I think they're called bubble teas. My kids love them. Those are super thick straws. There's currently, they have 2 years for that right now. So there is, I'm sorry. I'm thinking polystyrene foam.
Right.
But for the straws that are thick for Starbucks, that they can't do that, right? The customer has to still request it.
Right. And I just want to emphasize that this is not a straw ban. Mm-hmm. This is what I call the straw law. And all it says is you have to request one if you want one. Mm-hmm. I think we all learned during COVID, getting all our deliveries, and you'd open the bag and you would get, 4 forks, 4 knives, 4 spoons, a couple of straws, some napkins, little packages of ketchup, and you'd say, well, I have all of this stuff. I don't need it. And this is just starting at a very small measure, just to say, if you need it, ask for it.
Right, right. No, that's fantastic. Yeah, I agree. I think that's great. So as Joanne said, definitely bookmark these two websites. The first one is from DP, the plastic ban law. And then the second one is the New Jersey Business Action Center. And they have a lot of resources there. And they're also offering business roundtables for all businesses. And I think municipalities should jump on that and organize a business roundtable to get the word out. And it's a great site. So they have a live chat, and they can answer all your questions, especially for the businesses. And of course, New Jersey Clean Communities, they recommend going on bagupnj.com. There's downloadable resources, flyers, clings. There's a newsletter that you can sign up for. And what's great is Joanne and DP and New Jersey Business Action Center, they have been doing a lot of talks across the state. And you can watch some of their presentations on YouTube as well, and just to really get more of a background on where the law is. And ANJAC also built out a website of FAQs. This is focused on residents as well as businesses and municipalities. We also have some resources, downloadable flyers and such that you're welcome to use as well. All right, so what does my town need to do now? Like I said, educate, educate, educate. And the best way to do that is through township newsletters and press releases. On the bottom right there, there's a release that Parsippany did, which was fantastic. And if you go on bagupnj.com, they have some sample press releases, and you can use that and send that out in your community. And like I said, business roundtables, those are really great too, if the township can organize that. And giveaways of reusable bags using your Clean Communities funding, that would be fantastic. Certainly walk the talk, events and facilities, making those plastic free. If we can ideally go beyond just straws and bags, that would be great. And then figure out how to handle non-compliance. So who in your town will handle enforcement as the calls come in from residents? And if that's something your town can't do, have those conversations with the county environmental health agency so they're aware and they can possibly track it and help you handle those complaints as they come in. Okay, so Jersey City did a fantastic program that they launched, which is No Straw November, and you can learn more about it. I think that's great. It's a 30-day challenge. I love this graphic here, very much so. In fact, so much so that I asked them if I can use it, and they said sure, which was great. So on njnoplastics.org, we have a flyer with this graphic. And what I like about this, it shows how does the straws get into our waterways when, if you live in an urban community, what happens? How's it getting there? And you can see the sea turtle, you can see the fish, and you can just see how the litter enters into our waterways through storm drains. DP Commissioner LaTourette and NJ Clean Communities have put together a fantastic PSA called Skip the Straw. And it's a couple minutes long. And if we have time, I'll be happy to show that to you guys. It's really great. It's well done. What about what can we do personally? Vote with your wallet, say yes to reusables, start bringing those. I know I do that. I take my reusable coffee cup to my local Dunkin' Donuts, and every time the guy sees me, he has the same comment, which is, hey, that's a really nice cup. I'm like, yeah, thanks. And Joanne touched on this, saying no to utensils and extras when ordering takeout, and talk about how plastic pollution is a public health crisis, environmental justice issue. And let's continue to spread that message of no littering and just generally reducing consumption. And that's what I have here. This is how you get in touch with us. And let me see what other questions are here for folks. All right, there was a question here from Vincent. As a municipality, is there any recommended outreach we can do to get these messages out to small businesses and stores in our community? Yes, yes, absolutely. And Joanne, please jump in if you heard of how other towns are doing it. But so towns are publicizing these in township newsletters. They are hosting business roundtables. They are doing press releases. And I think that as environmental commissioners and green team members, you know, printing out some of those downloadable resources. And as you go through your day, if you're at the local grocery store, bring it with you if you don't see any flyers, and encourage the managers to start putting them up.
Yeah, the straw law obviously goes into effect today. So don't delay, right? I guess is the answer on that. And I think there's a little bit of a learning curve. I mean, no one wants to get anybody in trouble. No one wants to go out and you know, write tickets to people and get anyone in trouble. We just want to protect the environment. So I think with COVID, I think it's been a little difficult to do the one-on-one outreach that we, you know, had hoped to do, but the Business Action Center has been doing a great job. And I know last week we did a webinar with the New Jersey Restaurant and Hospitality Association, the New Jersey Food Council, which every convenience store in New Jersey, I think, is a member. So the big players in the game are very well aware. So I'm hoping, you know, we're going to get a lot of compliance and we're going to see a lot less straws when we do our litter cleanup programs.
There was a request for the YouTube videos with New Jersey Business Action Center. And honestly, the fastest way to do that is just go on YouTube and just put in New Jersey Business Action Center plastics, and then you'll get access to videos on YouTube. And there's a few of them, so you can pick and choose what you want to hear. But they're fantastic. They're very helpful.
Amy, someone asked if your straw graphic would be available. I will say that the New Jersey Clean Communities Council Skip the Straw campaign, which is available in both English and Spanish, is available on bagupnj.com. If NJEC wants to share, I would be more than happy to add that to our website, but that's up to you.
Yeah, that would be great. Thanks. Appreciate it. We have a couple minutes, so I will show the video. Let me see if there's any more questions. I just want to be sure. Where can I get the PDF of the poster of the November 4th law? Well, it'll be, you can check Bag Up NJ or NewJerseyNoPlastics.org. And do you want to pause this and then let me see if I can share the video for folks that want to stay on and watch that. Sorry, give me 1 second while I try to find it. Oh, my computer's not working here. I can't share my screen. Oops. Okay. I cannot share my screen for some reason. So I apologize, but what this also means that you folks will be getting an earlier start. I mean, get a few minutes back in your lunch hour. I'm so sorry about that.
What video are you trying to share, Deanie?
Yeah, that YouTube video with Sean.
Okay.
But I see some more questions coming through as well. So let me see if we can answer the questions first.
Okay, I'll try to find it in the meantime.
Okay, thanks. Okay.
Is it from Skip the Straw? Is that the 5 Q&A one?
Yes, yes, it is.
Okay.
All right. There's a highly referenced study that Thomas is asking that shows that plastic bags are preferable to paper from an environmental perspective, but these analyses do not, to my knowledge, include the cradle to grave cost. Do you know of studies that include those factors? Yes. Tom, why don't you reach out to me offline? I'm happy to help you. Do you have it ready? Liz? Okay. Sorry about that, folks.
Sorry, I muted myself. I can share it now.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Hey, welcome to TEP. Come on in.
Good afternoon, Commissioner. Thanks for having us.
Well, I'm really grateful that you came all the way down to Trenton, so thank you.
Thank you. We're excited to hear about the new law that bans single-use plastic straws.
So in New Jersey, with Governor Phil Murphy's leadership, we are tackling the issue of single-use plastics that can end up our environment and harm our wildlife and end up in places like our drinking water. So as of November 4th, when you go to your favorite restaurant or convenience store, you won't automatically be given a straw.
Does this mean we can no longer use straws?
Oh, no, not at all, not at all. Come on in. So actually, we want to make sure that the laws that we put forward to help protect our environment and public health never leave anyone behind. And there's plenty of folks who may need a straw. So we don't want that to be unavailable to anyone. You're just going to have to ask.
Why is the plastic straw ban necessary?
Because oftentimes, like we've seen during the COVID pandemic, folks can leave waste products behind, just like we've seen things like latex gloves that folks use to protect themselves end up in our parking lots. Same thing with disposable masks. We see a lot of plastic pollution in our environment. So everything that we can do to get it out is a good thing, because plastic takes a long, long time to break down. And when it does, it can become these tiny little pieces that end up in the stomachs of our wildlife or even in our drinking water.
Then why still make them available?
Because some people need them, right? And we don't want to leave anyone behind.
Is there anything else that the ban covers?
So it's a great question. And I'm glad you asked that, because as of next spring, May 2022, we'll no longer be able to use single-use plastic bags like when you go to the grocery store. So we are working with the Clean Communities, as well as a number of grocers in the Food Council of New Jersey, in order to make sure folks know that as of May 2022, they're going to have to bring a reusable bag when they go grocery shopping.
Thanks, Commissioner, for your time today.
Thank you for coming again. And we've got an environment to protect, or we talk longer. Have a great day.
Did you see the one with Mystery Apartment Girl?
She feels a breeze coming from behind.
Thanks so much, Liz. Appreciate you sharing that. Yeah, you know, the intention here is there's so much plastic in our everyday life, and this is just a very small thing we can do to help reduce plastic. And that's the purpose of the law. And we're just really excited to get this started. Duran, did you want to add any closing comments before we let folks get back to lunch?
I really want to give a shout out to Sarah. I'm so glad that you brought her in for this webinar today. I thought she brought in fantastic ideas. One of which, you know, my role here is to do a statewide campaign which means I develop something, I put it on Bag Up NJ, I share it with the county coordinators in the hopes that everyone else can use it. So my glean from her presentation was the coaster idea. I think that's fantastic. If you've seen Bag Up NJ, you'll see on there stuff related to our bag ban and stuff really related to our Skip the Straw campaign, as well as reusable or shopping list pads that say bring reusable bags with you. So this is something I will work on and add it to our toolkit because I thought it was fantastic.
And folks, you know, if you have stuff that you produce over the next few months, feel free to share it with us. And we're happy to spread that around and put it on our resources page. That would be fantastic. We
have a lot of great partners in our Clean Communities Network. And they're all just doing such great ideas. If you're driving anywhere on Route 1 or 287, Middlesex County just launched a billboard campaign for Bag Up NJ, so keep an eye out for that. Hudson County just launched a multilingual Skip the Straw campaign on PATH trains and buses throughout Hudson County. So all funded by Clean Communities programs. So, and we have our ballparks in Somerset and Mercer County that are also promoting our Bag Up NJ initiative. So whatever you do out of the box, thank you. And please share it because I include all of them in my presentations. And the more we can share and get other folks to copy what you do, the better we all are.
All right, thanks. All right, take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.